Hello everybody, my name is Exony, and today I'm here with a small update to the Know the Numbers series, and here I'll be going over all the weapons that were changed from previous Know the Numbers, namely Soldier, Scout, and Demoman, in the Jungle Inferno update. Like with all previous iterations of Know the Numbers, timestamps will be in the description below, and previous videos will now reference this video for a more up-to-date version of weapons. So let's get into it by talking about the Scout's weapons that were changed, and while none of his primaries were touched, several of his secondaries and melees have been rebalanced. The first weapon for the Scout is the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol, and this small black pistol with a short barrel holds 9 shots in a clip and stores 36 ammo in reserve. Damage wise, it's the same as the stock pistol, dealing 22 damage at maximum ramp up, 15 base damage, and 8 damage at maximum fall off. On critical hits, it deals 45 damage per shot, and with mini crits it deals from 20 to 30 damage depending on range to the target. As an added bonus, every attack that hits an enemy heals the player for 7 health. Combined with a smaller clip size, makes this ideal for hit and run style of Scout when health packs and medics become scarce. On to function times, the pocket pistol fires faster than the stock pistol with 0.1445 seconds in between shots and a reload speed of 1.25 seconds. Next up, we have the Bonk, Atomic Punch. This can of soda's function hasn't changed much at all, giving its user 8 seconds of invincibility after a 1.2 second consumption time. After use, it gets put on a 22 second cooldown before you can use it again. While under the effects of Bonk, you are invincible to most all damaging effects, but you cannot carry the intelligence, block or capture control points, or push the payload. Any damage you would have taken while under the Bonk's effect will catch up with you when it wears off, slowing the Scout down for the next 5 seconds depending on how much damage he has taken, from 25% slower at lower damages to a maximum of 50% slower if he would have taken 200 or more damage while phasing. One last thing to note about Bonk is that on-hit effects like the medic's Ubersaw's Uber gain will still gain charges from hitting a Scout who is phasing, while things like the buff banner will not gain charge because those are damage based. Moving on to the Scout's other soda-based item, the Criticola, which also received some changes this update, now loses its speed boost and has its mini crit effect altered. It takes 1.2 seconds to consume Criticola and its effects last 8 seconds, as well as taking 22 seconds to recharge. While under its effects, all of your shots become mini crits, but every shot you take also marks you for death for 5 seconds, giving you 1 or 2 powerful shots before you are forced to retreat or meet an untimely end. And our final secondary weapon for the Scout is the Flying Guillotine, which was changed due to the changes to the Sandman. This butcher's knife can be thrown to deal 50 damage on a hit, on critical hits 150 damage, and on mini crits 68 damage. On top of its initial damage, the Guillotine also inflicts bleed on hit, which procs every half second for 4 damage, meaning 8 damage a second for 5 seconds, giving us a total of 40 damage. While mini crit boosted, the bleed will deal 10.8 damage per second for 5 seconds, which will give us a total of 54 bleed damage on top of the initial damage. Talk about the function times, it takes 6 seconds to recharge, but can be reduced by up to 1.5 seconds if you hit a long range cleaver, and the bleed lasts for 5 seconds. All in all, the Guillotine is a good mid to long range weapon for the Scout to constantly harass his enemies when he's not within scattergun range. Moving on to the Scout's melee weapons, we have some changes to the Sandman, a wooden baseball bat and ball, which has been changed from stunning enemies to merely slowing them down. Damage wise, the bat deals 35 damage, with a critical hit dealing 105 damage, and mini crits dealing 47. The baseball can be thrown to deal 15 damage on a hit, or 23 damage on a long range hit. Critically, it will deal 45 damage normally, or 68 damage at longer ranges, and with the mini crit it deals 20 damage or 30 on long range hits. By hitting an enemy with the ball, you slow them down, and they are slowed for more time the further the ball has traveled, but by equipping the Sandman, you immediately lose 15 maximum health, bringing the Scout down to 110 health, making him much easier to kill. Finally, function times. The Sandman sports an attack interval of 0.5 seconds in between hits, and takes 10 seconds to recharge its ball. The last Scout item altered in the Jungle Inferno update is the Atomizer. This team-colored aluminum bat is a bit lacking in the damage department when compared to other weapons, dealing 26 damage on a normal hit, 79 on a critical hit, and 35 damage on a mini crit. But where it's lacking in damage, it makes up for in utility. While the Atomizer is your active weapon, the Scout gains a second air jump, or to put it simply, a triple jump, allowing for incredible maneuverability. Along with that, it also mini crits while you are airborne, which, while an interesting feature, equates to normal bat damage. Function times are similar to the Scout's other melees with an attack interval of 0.5 seconds, but it also has a 50% longer deploy time, taking 3/4 of a second to deploy to prevent quick switching to gain the extra jumps without having to have the weapon drawn. Now with all the scout items out of the way, we can move on to the soldier, who had several of his secondaries tweaked to balance them out or to return them to previous iterations. The first secondary we'll be looking at was tweaked a little bit, there wasn't that much changed about it, but it's the reserve shooter. This modified shotgun stores 4 shells instead of the stock 6 and holds 32 ammo in reserve. Damage wise, it's identical to the shotgun, dealing a maximum of 9 damage per pellet, a base of 6 damage per pellet, and at maximum fall off 3 damage. With 10 pellets, you can expect to do around 80 to 90 damage at close range, 10 to 30 damage at medium range, and 3 to 10 damage at long range. On a critical hit, you'll be dealing 18 damage per pellet, and on a mini crit it deals 8.1 to 12.1 damage per pellet depending on your distance to the target. By trading off 2 ammo, you gain the ability to mini crit explosive jumping players within the first few seconds you deploy the weapon, making this weapon ideal for denying jumping soldiers, Demoman, or Pyros, but less effective in a straight firefight. Onto the function times, the reserve shooter has a 0.625 second attack interval, a first reload speed of 1 second, with all consecutive reloads taking half a second, making reloading multiple times more efficient than reloading single shells. The reserve shooter also deploys faster than the stock shotgun in 0.4 seconds instead of the normal half a second, and it holsters in 0.425 seconds. Now onto the bigger rework in the jungle update, the panic attack. This drum-attached shotgun went from being a Beggar Bazooka-esque shotgun into a final blow shotgun. It stores 6 shots and has 32 shells in reserve. The panic attack deals less damage per pellet, with maximum ramp up dealing 6.4 damage per pellet, a base damage of 4.2 damage per pellet, and at long range is 2.1 per pellet. It makes up for its lower damage by shooting off 15 pellets instead of the normal shotgun's 10, dealing a maximum of 96 damage at point blank, 63 damage at medium range, and at long range can deal a maximum of 31 damage. But the chance of hitting all your pellets is incredibly small, especially because each consecutive shot you take with the panic attack increases the weapon's spread. The spread will always fire in a fixed pattern as well, so each consecutive shot just increases the distance between your pellets, making it less effective in a drawn-out fight and more effective at finishing off targets with 1 or 2 shots. Finally, its function times, which surprise surprise are mostly identical to the stock, with an attack interval of 0.625 seconds in between shots, a first reload speed of 1 second, with all consecutive reloads taking half a second. The main difference between this and the stock is its deploying speed, and it deploys twice as fast as the stock shotgun, only taking a quarter of a second to whip out. And next up isn't a shotgun, it's a laser gun. The Righteous Bison is a space-age pistol that loads 4 shots at a time and has an infinite supply of ammo in reserve. On its own, the Bison's damage seems pitiful, dealing a max of 24 damage a hit, a base damage of 20, and a minimum of 11. Its crits only deal 60 damage, and mini crits can deal from 27 to 32 damage. Even worse, against buildings it suffers from an 80% damage reduction, only dealing 4 damage to sentries, dispensers, and teleporters. So how does it make up for having less damage than a Scout's bat? Well, it can pierce enemy players, allowing it to hit a large group of enemies at once, and put out a lot of damage into choke points. On top of this, it can also hit the same target multiple times, stacking its damage up. So while its damage may be nothing impressive on paper, it excels at punishing groups of enemies. Function time wise, it has an attack interval of 0.8 seconds in between shots, meaning it fires slightly slower than the shotgun, but it reloads slightly faster, with a reload speed of 0.92 seconds, with all consecutive reloads taking 0.4 seconds. This next item received a much smaller change, but it makes a big difference. That's right, I'm talking about the Mantreads. This pair of dark brown tanker boots has some simple effects. In exchange for your shotgun, you gain 75% reduction in knockback from all sources, making it much easier to walk into a fortified enemy position or land some sweet market gardeners without being juggled around. If you land on an enemy player, any fall damage you would have taken is instead tripled and dealt to the player you landed on. On top of all of this, it also grants the player 200% increased air control, which, while not being incredibly game-changing, is very fun to jump around with. Our final soldier item also bridges with the Demoman items because it's also an item for Demoman. Of course, I'm talking about the base jumper. By equipping this parachuting backpack, you gain the ability to deploy the chute while you are falling by pressing your jump key. You can deactivate this parachute the same way you activated it, but once it's pulled back in, it cannot be redeployed until you have touched the ground again. While deployed, you also have 50% less air control, making you a sitting duck while deployed. The only changes to the Demoman made other than the base jumper was changing the Claidheamh Mòr to be more like its earlier iterations. This large claymore deals normal melee damage, dishing out 65 on a normal hit, 195 damage on a crit, and 88 damage on a mini crit. What makes this sword interesting is its unique ability to increase the Demoman's charge duration by half a second, which may not seem huge on paper, but can make a big deal in game. On top of longer charges, a kill made will refill 25% of your charge meter, and the blade has a 37% longer melee range. All of this is in exchange for a 15% damage vulnerability while as your active weapon. When it comes to function times, it is similar to the stock melees with a 0.8 second attack interval with a 1 second drawn holster time because it is grouped along the Demoman's other swords such as the Eyelander and the Zotoichi. And those are all the items changed from previous Know the Numbers. This video primarily serves as a retroactive fix to outdated weapons and older videos, but you can expect to know the numbers for the pyro to be coming out within the next few weeks. So if you're interested in that, stick around. Thank you for watching, I hope you've enjoyed, and have a great day.